The movie opens with a narration explaining that for thousands of years, the universe was consumed by nothing but darkness. However, the gods eventually created light, and heaven became the radiant home of gods and angels. Unfortunately, among these celestial beings stood Lucifer, who defied God and was cast out of heaven, after which he fell into the abyss and became the devil. As a result, a battle broke out between God and Lucifer, and every angel was forced to choose a side. However, one angel refused to choose any side, claiming that the only force worth fighting for was love. This angel was cast out of heaven along with all the others who had refused to choose a side. They now live on Earth in human form and are known as the Fallen. The scene then cuts to the present day, where we meet a young girl named Lucinda, who has arrived at a unique boarding school called Sword and Cross. It turns out to be a reform school for troubled teens, and we soon learn that Lucinda has a mysterious past that involves a fire and the death of a boy. Upon her arrival, Lucinda notices a boy named Cam, who is being escorted to the school by the police. The two then stare at each other, maintaining intense eye contact and showing a keen interest. Afterward, Lucinda undergoes a thorough check, and the principal seizes her phone, as well as a gift her mother had given her for her birthday, since it could be a potential weapon. The principal then introduces her to a student named Ariane, who gives her a tour of the school. While exploring, Lucinda comes across Cam and again stares at him, but Ariane warns her to stay away from him, saying he is nothing but trouble. In the next scene, Lucinda settles into her dorm and drifts off to sleep after a long day. Around midnight, she suddenly wakes and notices a moth trapped in a light bulb. This causes intense hallucinations of fire and darkness, which deeply disturb her. Moments later, the visions gradually fade, and the moth dies, after which Lucinda finally falls asleep. The next day, she attends a session with a psychiatrist, where they discuss her mental health. Lucinda reveals the hallucinations she has been experiencing since she was a child, which she refers to as shadows. The doctor then advises her to take medication that could suppress her hallucinations and allow her to live a normal life. However, the young girl refuses, believing that her hallucinations are not the result of a mental illness. Afterward, Lucinda goes to the library, where she meets her religious studies teacher, Miss Sophia. Her attention is soon caught by a handsome boy named Daniel, and she feels an instant connection to him, as if she has known him for a long time. Lucinda tries to speak to him, but the moment he notices her, Daniel quickly gets up and walks out of the library. Later, Lucinda is walking down the hallway when she is approached by a girl named Molly, who begins harassing her. Lucinda doesn't understand why she is being so mean, but Molly claims to know everything about her and even calls her a psycho murderer. This deeply upsets Lucinda, and she begins to have flashbacks and visions of fire. The two girls then start fighting, but the scene is cut short when the principal arrives and separates them. He scolds Lucinda harshly and assigns her yard work as punishment before taking Molly to his office. Feeling very upset, Lucinda heads to the bathroom to cry, where she is approached and comforted by a sweet girl named Pen. Later, Lucinda goes to attend her class of Miss Sophia, where Daniel is also present. She continues to gaze at him as Miss Sophia talks about the fallen angels and mentions someone called the Rebel Angel, who didn't choose a side because he chose love. It turns out that all the fallen are now stuck on Earth until the Rebel Angel finally chooses a side. Next, Miss Sophia asks Lucinda for her thoughts on the matter, but Lucinda admits that she doesn't have much knowledge. She explains that her family isn't very religious and that she hasn't even been baptized, which shocks the class. After class, Lucinda heads to clean the yard, when she suddenly notices a huge angel statue teetering above her, about to fall. Instead of moving away, Lucinda freezes in shock, and her hallucinations return once again. It seems like it's over for her, but at the last moment, Daniel intervenes and pulls her out of harm's way. As they touch each other, Lucinda experiences a vivid flashback that feels like a memory from a past life. She tries to speak to Daniel, but he says nothing and walks away, leaving her confused. The next morning, Cam is seen staring at Lucinda from a window, which catches Molly's attention. She asks if he is in love, and warns that this could make things even more complicated. Cam ignores her words, but Molly reminds him not to forget who he works for. Elsewhere, Lucinda approaches Daniel in class and tries to thank him for saving her life. She tells him how she feels as if she knows him, and asks if they've met somewhere before. But Daniel insists that they have never met, and rudely walks away, which makes Lucinda feel bad. Regardless, she soon comes across Cam, who seems interested in her and invites her to hang out. Lucinda agrees, and Cam hands her a coffee, saying that he stole it from the faculty lounge. He then begins to flirt with her, telling her that she seems like the kind of person who does what is right rather than simply following orders. Before they part ways, Cam invites her to a party at the end of the week, which she happily accepts. The scene then shifts to fencing class, where a sword combat session is taking place, but Lucinda has no prior experience. She has no choice but to participate, and her opponent is Molly, who is extremely skilled. Molly easily defeats her, after which Lucinda must face Daniel. As they fight, she experiences flashbacks that feel like memories from a previous life, and she sees herself fighting Daniel with a sword. This causes a surge of intensity, and she starts fighting fiercely with expert skills, surprising everyone. The fight ends when Lucinda has a flashback to someone stabbing her in the past, which causes her to collapse. Later in the locker room, Lucinda notices Daniel shirtless, and can't help but continue staring, which which is noticed by Penn. She then reveals that she has access to student files because the principal isn't very good with computers and often calls her for help. Penn shares some shocking information saying that Daniel, Ariane, Molly, Cam, and a few other students are all newcomers, and their files are completely empty. She mentions that Miss Sophia has been working at the school for a year, and her file is also completely blank. The scene then cuts to a party in the woods, where the students are enjoying drinks around a bonfire and having fun. Cam approaches Lucinda and begins flirting with her, which Daniel notices and feels jealous of. Shortly after, when Lucinda is alone, she is approached by Molly, who once again begins to harass her and accuses her of the death of someone named Trevor. This horrifies Lucinda, and she starts experiencing hallucinations while Molly continues bothering her. In the end, Cam intervenes and firmly tells Molly to stay away from Lucinda and stop harassing her from now on. Meanwhile, Ariane comforts Lucinda and leads her away from the chaos, but Cam tries to follow them. Daniel blocks his path, and a tense fight erupts between the two over who has the right to protect Lucinda. Their friends quickly step in and separate them before the situation spirals out of control. Meanwhile, Lucinda is walking alone toward the school when she sees a flashback of Trevor's death, when he was trapped in a raging fire. The next day, Lucinda attends another session with the psychiatrist, who inquires about her recent experiences in mental health. She tells him that school is going well and lies, saying that she hasn't experienced any hallucinations in this place. In the next scene, Lucinda is swimming in the pool when she notices Daniel nearby. Her eyes are drawn to a locket he is wearing, which sparks vivid flashbacks of her past life. She then asks him once more if they have met before, as she feels an undeniable connection to him. This time, Daniel responds gently, assuring her that they have never met. He explains that he has kept his distance because he loves someone else, and that Lucinda reminds him of that girl. Later, while she is heading to class, she is approached by Penn, but Lucinda is enraged, as she thinks that Penn read her file and told Molly and the others about Trevor. Penn reassures her that she hasn't shared anything with anyone and asks her to explain what actually happened that day. Lucinda finally opens up, revealing that she and Trevor had gone to a cabin where they were making out. Suddenly, Lucinda began seeing shadows, and the next thing she remembers is being outside while the cabin was burning with Trevor trapped inside. Lucinda worries that something is wrong with her and asks Penn to stay away for her own safety, but Penn refuses, insisting that what happened was just an accident and that she trusts Lucinda. The scene then cuts to Miss Sophia's class, where she reads a Latin phrase from a religious book. She asks if anyone knows its meaning, and Lucinda translates the phrase accurately. The teacher is surprised and calls her a Latin expert, but Lucinda reveals that she has never studied Latin and had only guessed. After class, the students begin leaving, but Lucinda suddenly remembers her sweater and goes back for it. To her shock, she sees Miss Sophia and Daniel talking about the time the statue nearly fell on her. Miss Sophia assumes Cam was involved and asks Daniel to watch over Lucinda, especially since she isn't even baptized. But before they can say anything else, they notice Lucinda and immediately stop their conversation. While leaving, Lucinda picks up a sketch that Daniel has discarded and is shocked to see that the character looks strikingly like her. Later, she confronts Daniel about the drawing, and he explains that he is working on a novel and that this is the cover for it. He tells her that the story is about a cursed couple. The boy is immortal, while the girl is reincarnated every 17 years with no memory of her past lives. They are destined to fall in love in every lifetime, but once they kiss, the girl dies, and the boy is cursed to endure the pain of this loss. According to him, this cycle has been repeating for centuries, with the boy never aging and the girl dying at the age of 17 on their first date. Upon hearing this, Lucinda suspects he's really talking about himself, but he denies it. When she points out the drawing of the girl who looks like her, Daniel explains he used Lucinda as inspiration because she's beautiful. That night, Cam shows up outside Lucinda's room with a cupcake and wishes her a happy 17th birthday. He then invites her to a party with him, and she agrees on the condition that he will answer all her questions. Afterward, Lucinda gets ready beautifully, and they head to the party on Cam's motorcycle. When they arrive, the two have fun drinking and dancing, but Lucinda asks him about his life, such as where he grew up. But he dodges her questions every time and instead begins flirting with her. The two then start kissing passionately, but it is soon cut short when Daniel arrives and begins fighting with Cam. He orders Cam to stay away from her, and they suddenly begin talking about Lucifer and angels, which leaves Lucinda confused. Upon seeing them fighting like kids, a frustrated Lucinda yells at them to stop and heads back to school with the motorcycle. There, she meets Penn and reveals how she has visions of what seems to be her past life with Daniel. She believes she is reincarnated and that everything is connected to Daniel. However, Penn doesn't believe in such supernatural stories, though she offers to help investigate the matter. Next, the two girls go to wake up their friend Todd, who is a tech genius. The three then proceed to the library, where Todd installs the facial recognition software he created on a computer. They upload Daniel's image into it, while at the same time, a mysterious cloaked figure is seen watching them. Shortly after, the search results come up, revealing several ancient pictures of Daniel that leave them shocked. Things become even more bizarre when they discover an ancient woman who looks exactly like Lucinda standing next to Daniel in the old photograph. photograph. Next, Penn goes to retrieve the picture from the printer, while Lucinda begins to have visions of her past life, in which Daniel is seen confessing his love for her. The images overwhelm her, and suddenly she notices shadows creeping from the walls and reaching toward her. Before she can react, the entire library erupts in flames out of nowhere. Todd tries to help, but the fire spreads too quickly and consumes him. Lucinda collapses to the floor, gasping and terrified, as it seems she might not survive. But, at the last moment, Daniel appears out of the smoke and carries her to safety. In the next scene, Lucinda lies unconscious in the school infirmary as her parents arrive, anxious to take her home. But the doctor firmly refuses to release her until her condition stabilizes. Some police officers also arrive and want to question Lucinda, because this incident was similar to Trevor's case. But Lucinda's dad refuses to let them in, saying it has already been proven that the fire was caused by lightning. In another scene, we see the funeral of Todd, who tragically passed away in the fire incident. Afterward, Daniel accuses Cam of causing the fire and murdering Todd because he wanted to get rid of Lucinda, but Cam insists that he didn't do it and tells Daniel that killing people is his own thing. A frustrated Daniel then heads to check on the unconscious Lucinda and gently tells her that he loves her before leaving. Sometime later, Lucinda finally wakes up and finds Penn sitting in front of her. The two girls hug each other in tears, and Lucinda is horrified to realize that Todd has passed away. She feels it is her fault and says how she saw the shadows before his death, but Penn reassures her that it was just an accident. The girls then fall asleep together, during which Lucinda has a vision of herself romantically involved with both Daniel and Cam. Unable to sleep, Lucinda heads outside, where she finds Daniel on the balcony, asking if she's okay. She shows him the picture of them together from her past life, and tells him that she remembers everything. Daniel still denies ever meeting her, so Lucinda decides to test him and jumps off the balcony. Seeing her fall, Daniel, who turns out to be an angel, shockingly spreads his wings wide and soars into the air, catching her safely in his arms. Elsewhere, Penn wakes up alone in the infirmary and spontaneously heads out to find Lucinda, but instead she comes across the shadows of two people gossiping and is shocked. Meanwhile, Lucinda touches Daniel's locket and realizes that she was the one who had given it to him. All of a sudden, the shadows return and Lucinda begins to panic, but Daniel calms her down, explaining that these are called announcers. They are harmless and appear to mark important moments in her life. He touches the shadows, and Lucinda witnesses memories of their lives together over the last 1,000 years, leaving her completely stunned. Following this, the two proceed to kiss but are interrupted by Cam, who warns her that if she kisses him, she will die. At this point, we finally realize that Daniel is the same rebel angel who came from heaven. He hadn't chosen a side with the angels or the gods, but had instead chosen the love of a human, Lucinda. Daniel is confident that this time will be different and that she won't die, but Cam doesn't believe it and asks Lucinda to come with him to keep her safe. Regardless, Lucinda decides to follow her heart and passionately kisses Daniel. Nothing happens to her, and the couple rejoice, realizing that the curse has been broken. But Cam warns them that Lucifer knows she isn't baptized and will come after her to seek revenge. He spreads his wings and tries to take her with him for safety, but Daniel quickly reacts and leads her downstairs, where they come across Miss Sophia, who also turns out to be a fallen angel. He informs Miss Sophia that this time, the cycle is broken, and Lucinda will no longer reincarnate. Daniel then tells the teacher to take Lucinda to safety while he confronts Cam. The two men engage in an intense fight high in the sky with their wings spread wide. After a long and intense battle, Cam insists that he is not their enemy and never intended to harm Lucinda, leaving Daniel confused. Meanwhile, Miss Sophia is escorting Lucinda when all of a sudden, Penn arrives and reveals that it was the teacher who set the fire in the library. Before Lucinda can react, Miss Sophia slits Penn's throat, causing the poor girl to collapse, bloodied, on the floor. Lucinda begins to scream, which is soon heard by Daniel, and he rushes to help her. He's shocked by the teacher's action, and Sophia reveals that she intends to kill Lucinda forever, which will finally force him to choose a side to restore order. As she speaks, several shadows appear behind Miss Sophia and engulf her, consuming her completely. Afterward, Daniel soothes the shaken Lucinda and tells her that Cam was right, as Lucifer will now come after her. Determined to protect her, he decides to take her to a safe place, though Lucinda worries about her friend Penn. But two female angels are there with the unconscious Penn and promise to keep her safe. Lucinda and Daniel then finally confess their love and share a passionate kiss. The movie concludes with Daniel spreading his wings and carrying Lucinda away to safety to find safe haven from Lucifer. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and make sure to check out this video too.